All right. Let's go ahead and get this showing where it shows me. Okay, there I am. All right, let's get into this, folks. Today's date is September 14th, 2014, and this is how the frack we got here. I'm your host and most, Will Buchanan, and on how the frack we got here, we do take the events of the week. Sometimes crazy, sometimes nuts, sometimes make you scratch your head and wonder what type of world we're living in, but we try to make sense out of it all. Before I do get started, this is an adult podcast, which means that things of an adult language may be shown and things of a graphic nature may be seen, so viewer discretion is definitely advised. Aside from that, guys, welcome. So let's go ahead and get to the elephant in the room because I think this is where a lot of people are probably going to be a little bit peeved, but kind of probably already saw this coming too.
A solemn Felicity Huffman clutching her husband, William H. Macy's hand, while arriving at court in Boston today to hear her fate, the first of many parents to be sentenced in Operation Varsity Blues. The punishment for being part of one of the largest college admission scams, 14 days in jail, 250 hours of community service, and a $30,000 fine. The sentence for one count of conspiracy to commit mail fraud. It was almost 6 months to the day after the FBI arrested the Hollywood actress. Huffman pled guilty in May.
The judge made it clear that she wants to send a message that just because you've got money and you've got privilege, it doesn't mean that you can get away with something like this.
The actress of Desperate Housewives fame,
asking for a bribe?
Tearfully apologizing in court for paying a consultant $15,000 to change her daughter's SAT score, calling her own conduct stupid and wrong, and taking full responsibility for her actions.
Is prison the right sentence?
Huffman trending on Twitter this afternoon, some making comparisons to an African-American mother in Ohio who was originally sentenced to 5 years in prison for fraudulently using her father's address to get her children into a nearby suburban school district. Her sentence was later reduced to 10 days in jail. Prosecutors had been arguing for a month behind bars, saying a message must be sent for the next Felicity Huffman, describing her actions as deliberate and manifestly criminal, saying neither probation nor home confinement in a large home in the Hollywood Hills with an infinity pool would deter others from committing similar crimes.
Prosecutors asked for a month, defense asked for probation. The judge split it right in the middle and gave her 14 days.
Huffman's plea for leniency. A letter was sent earlier this week to the judge where she stated her decision was out of desperation to be a good mother, believing that all I was doing was giving my daughter a fair shot. She called motherhood bewildering, which coupled with her daughter's learning disabilities made her do what was the opposite of fair.
She apologized profusely for everything that she did. She really took full responsibility, and she had a bunch of character witnesses, including Ava Longoria and her husband.
Nearly a dozen other parents now face sentencing after pleading guilty in the scandal. Another 19 are fighting the charges. They are accused of doling out more than $25 million to cheat the admission system and secure entry for their children into some of the most elite colleges, from Stanford to Yale to Georgetown.
This is a case where they flaunted their wealth, sparing no expense, to cheat the system.
Prosecutors say they uncovered widespread bribes to exam officials to cheat on standardized tests, as well as paying off coaches for athletic slots, even staging photos for students who never even played the sport.
The head women's soccer coach at Yale, in exchange for $400,000, accepted an applicant as a recruit for the Yale women's team, despite knowing that the applicant did not even play competitive soccer.
Authorities say this man, William Rick Singer, was the mastermind.
Hi, my name is Rick Singer, and I'm the founder of The Key. As a father myself, I understand the stress the college admissions process can put on your family.
Investigators say The Key was a fake college nonprofit in which Singer funneled bribes.
This enabled the parents to not only mask the true nature of the payment, but also take the tax write-off at the end of the year.
Singer is now a cooperating witness, but just months ago, the 58-year-old was focused on building his clientele.
This is a game. Just realize that this is a game.
A video obtained by TMZ shows Singer in 2010 pitching himself as the star of his own reality show centered around the stresses of college admissions.
Mom and dad go to a dinner party. They hear about every kid who's getting into this school, going to this summer program, doing this.
Okay, so pretty much you guys get the idea. So I'm sorry. As I'm watching that, and that's the reason why I kind of stopped it halfway through, just because it's just going into the case. Needless to say that a lot of people really from this are just, annoyed because that's not true justice. 14 days in jail, and I love the whole production behind it. I was just trying to give my daughter the best chance at life. Don't forget the fact that don't forget the fact that I have millions of dollars. Don't forget the fact that I have a home in the Hollywood Hills. Don't forget the fact that I have influence among others. But I just wanted to give my daughter the best possible chance. I was like, oh, if your acting wasn't so bad, I can see why you're only on TV and not getting an Oscar. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. It to me, of course, from a prosecution side, I was expecting a lot. I was expecting maybe 6 months in jail because that to me would explain something. I mean, for the simple fact of the matter is, yes, you want your kids to have the best. You want your kids to have everything else. But let's just also be honest a little bit here. If you've made it in Hollywood and you've got money in the bank, your kids have options. Unlike everybody else in the world who doesn't have a hit TV, who wasn't on a hit TV show, who wasn't on anything important, and who didn't have, means and opportunity, that's a little bit different. How different? Just in the same sense where everybody was talking about, of course, Kelly Williams Bowler, which, for all those that don't know, used a different address for her kids to have a better life, and they were willing to throw the book at her. If it wasn't for social media, I will be honest with you, if it wasn't for social media, I'm almost certain that she would have been serving those 10 years, and we would have never known about it. Almost in the same sense, another person, Tanya McDowell, was also being sentenced. Now, excuse me, I do love the simple fact of the matter is that they try to tie the simple fact of the matter that she was a homeless mother and that she had drug and prostitution charges. And I was like, and when I first heard that, I was like, wait a minute, are you guys really trying to muddle that water? Okay, yes. Yes, she sold drugs, and yes, she was prostitution to an undercover agent, but that's after the fact of her using her babysitter's address for her son's registration at school because she was trying to give her son a better shot. If anything from this, aside from the fact of the matter is, I've always said it best, if you got enough money, you can basically get out of everything, and that's kind of number one, what's wrong with the justice system. Number two of all things is just that there is, just like there's an income gap problem in America, there's also an education gap. Those that have it are able to get through doors that those that do not have it. And when especially in this case of Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin, Aunt Becky, which we're still waiting to see how she gets sentenced, because if anything, she got caught and she's acting like a victim. So that's going to be fun as hell to see how that's going to go. But those are the haves. For the have-nots, it's a little bit more difficult for honestly to get anything. Good education, good job, without having to literally be damn near perfect. You have to be in order to get ahead in that situation versus someone else who, like I said, Felicity Huffman decided to go the woe is me, but I have money route, and she got 14 days of so many hours of probation, a year probation, so many hours of community service, which, let's be honest, that's not really the type of justice we're seeking. I mean, I need to see jail time. I need to see half a year. Half a year would practically show that we're not playing about this. But then again, like I said, when you got money, it's amazing how you can get out of shit. But moving right along, a lot of really fucked up things happened this week. Now, I know I've said it many times on this show about Democrats and Republicans. I am not a Republican. I don't see how people are Republicans. I don't really assign myself with Democrats because there are some things that they do that I don't agree with. That being said, this actually happened in North Carolina during a 9/11 memorial service, as 9/11, as we remember the events behind the World Trade Center and things of that nature. This was probably one of the most deplorable things I've seen the Republican Party do.
In North Carolina, Mr. Speaker. How dare you do this, Mr. Speaker? I will not yield.
We're not going to let anybody touch her.
I will not yield, Mr. Speaker. I will not yield.
There is no.
You shall not usurp the process, Mr. Speaker. How dare you subject this body to trickery, deceptive practices, hijacking the process? We have been here day and night for months defending what we believe, and you would submit this body to trickery, deception, deceit. It is so typical of the way you conduct yourself. How dare you, Mr. Speaker?
This is not leadership.
How dare you do this, Mr.
This
Speaker?
is a hijacking of democracy.
If this is the way you believe democracy works, shame on you. This is not appropriate, and you know it. The people of North Carolina, you will answer to the people of North Carolina.
Please don't think that you're going to continue.
You will answer to the people of North Carolina.
Not today.
Like this.
Not today.
If you usurp this process in this fashion, you will answer to the people of North Carolina. We have had cancer treatments. We have had people who have driven after surgery to defend their constituents. And you wait until a moment when you have suggested there will be no votes. When we're in the midst of a redistricting process, the partisanness is rampant. How dare you, Mr. Speaker?
Okay, sorry about that. My mouse was fighting me for a second. But yeah, in that sense of what just happened, for all those that don't know, North Carolina was actually having a budget meeting done as far as their next year's fiscal budget. And during 9/11, a lot of the Democratic legislature was actually out at 9/11 events. Unfortunately, all of the Republican ones were there and decided to go ahead and pass a budget vote. Now, I understand that Republicans, all Republicans aren't bad, but it's like in the same sense, all police aren't bad. Let's just be honest. You'll never see them call it their own. But that being said, it was utterly deplorable that they went ahead and pushed legislation through without the entire body there because they knew they'd have opposition. And, hats off to the woman for trying to sit there and say, this is shameful, this is that, you should be shot and all this crap. Well, not you should be shot, but, you should be ashamed that you're trying to railroad this whole thing through without the entire body being there, because by North Carolina law, if they have a majority, it can be pushed through without the whole entire body being there. So again, it's very fucked up, but at the same time, she's just trying her best on that note. At that point, it's going to probably go into law, and the state of North Carolina is probably going to suffer for it. But again, I just found that just utterly horrible how the Republican Party in North Carolina could just be that dirty. But then again, I live in Tennessee. I know how bad the Republican Party can be in Tennessee, and be that underhanded, actually. But moving right along, things in police that just doesn't make any sense. This actual video I'm about to show is the same way, and keep in mind, it is very graphic.
Oh, your door's open.
Oh, yeah, sir. I don't feel comfortable opening this door without my parents here, sir.
Who are you?
I'm my son. My mom's
You're my son. What's your name?
My mom's son.
Where's your mom at?
My mom's not here, sir.
What's your name?
How old are you? I don't even feel comfortable.
How old are you?
I
need to find your girlfriend. Oh, your door's open.
It was an illegal search of this home. It was an illegal seizure of that minor, and ultimately it was a false arrest.
I always love how they always say the police are reviewing the incident. What they review? Your officers opened a door, then claimed the door was open, then tried to question an underage kid, which they can't do unless the parent is present, and then proceeded to arrest him and not tell him what he's under arrest for. What is there to review? It sounds like to me there are going to be two cops who need to find other ways of employment. Because let's be honest, they said we need to find your girlfriend. First and foremost, you don't even know who I am, sir. I didn't give you my name. And this is why I always tell people. I said, yes, I do have a certain affinity toward law enforcement, but I've always told people of any color this. It is always best to know the laws where you live at. It is best to know them better than police. Why? Because some police out there are hoping you are very ignorant of the laws. Which in this case, the young man tried to do right. But he couldn't really do anything because they already went ahead and opened the door. So they were already trying to do forced entry. But then again, and any law enforcement officer can argue with me on this. I would love to see you try. It's basically because you have no right to enter the premises of a home unless you suspect an imminent threat or somebody's life's in danger. Going up to a door and opening it and saying, "Hey, your door's open," doesn't allow you probable cause to come in. In the same sense, the whole arrest thing, which without being arrested, not being told what you're being arrested for, not being your rights, is an unlawful arrest. Actually, it's a false arrest, which is actually definitely suable, which I don't blame the family for. Thank God they had a home security system, because when it comes down to the cop's word and our word and law department and the law enforcement that's investigating them, that badge of silence seems to agree with their own, which I found it funny again when they sit there and say, "Well, we're investigating the incident." What's there to investigate? Fire the cops. Simple as that. Now, and other things that are just, asinine crazy. Well, I just better play this. Let me just play this and then it'll explain itself.
A huge victory. This is so much better than we thought. This is so much better.
Just days after 17-year-old state champion swimmer Brecken Willis was disqualified from a heat for the way her swimsuit fit, a new win. The ripple effects reaching far beyond her home pool at Diamond High School.
It's not so much that the rule's in place as it is how is it being interpreted, how is it being fairly enforced.
The Alaska School Activities Association reversing the disqualification on Tuesday. This within an hour of receiving a formal request from the Anchorage School District to do so. ASD writing that Willis was, quote, targeted based solely on how a standard school-issued uniform happened to fit the shape of her body. Supporters, including local swim coach Lauren Langford, who published an account of the incident online over the weekend, commending the move.
This is as good or better than I could have hoped for.
The athlete's mother declining to go on camera on Tuesday, but saying it's a good start. As the ASAA maintains it will not let something similar happen to anybody else.
Our directive to the officials will be that you should assume that a uniform is legal.
If the point of all of this was to get back to swimming, now we can do that. And that's big.
So the context behind that story is basically a young woman who was a swimmer. Apparently, the swimsuit they said didn't fit her body. And they try to say that a race official during one of her swim meets said that it showed too much of her backside. This is why I sit there and I say, I go back and forth about wanting to be a parent to bring children in this world. But I fear, I used to always say I fear so much of a son than a daughter. And now it's starting to be equal. The reason why I say that is because you're telling me that if my daughter, future if it ever happens, finding a wife first. But again, let's just say I have a daughter. Let's just say that she's very talented in the water. She could honestly be the fastest thing in the water, and I'm going to be proud. I'm going to be that proud dad. I'm going to be one cheering her on and whatnot. Let's say she wins this race, and I'm happy and whatnot. Her, yay! Her mom and all of them are all happy too. And then a race official decides to sit there and look at my daughter and go, it is showing too much of your ass. I'm disqualifying you. Number one, as a parent, I'm like, what the fuck? It's the school uniform. And again, not only is it a school uniform, not only is it, the simple fact of the matter is, are we really disqualifying a girl because of her body? At the same time, what message does this show? I mean, I don't see those same officials going to guys in wrestling when you have to wear those spandex things. And trust me, some brothers could actually use some adjustments, because there were things showing there that shouldn't be showing, and I didn't see an official go, hey, your balls showing, disqualification. No. But apparently always with a woman, it seems always with a girl, that her body is constantly objectified. It is measured, it is judged, and at the same time, it's almost like, okay, I'm disqualifying you for your own DNA. And that's the problem that bothers me in life. Like, what are we actually saying? I mean, we can't say that in this progressive society that we still have this issue of a woman's body. We just can't accept a woman's body for what it is. We somehow cannot teach our younger women it is okay to accept your body as it is. You know, swimsuits happen. It's water, it's wet, you're kicking. Okay, cloth and fabric and spandex have their limits. But I'm not going to sit there and shame a girl who didn't have any power over anything, because the school is the one that actually gave the uniforms. Her body is still growing. She's still a kid. But what is the message we show when we sit there and say, well, you can't do this because, you know, your curves and whatnot? And let's be honest, this is the problem I have so much, is that if we are such a progressive nature, if we're such moving forward, if we are literally trying to sit there and say that we're trying to tackle these equal subjects, why are stories like this still popping up? And the asinine reason is because, well, it just showed too much of her backside. Who are we protecting? Are we protecting the girl, or are we just sitting there protecting the perverts that are watching this shit? And trust me, they do. And it's like, now that, as a parent, like I said, in my mind, that would be the first thing in my mind, like, who's looking at my daughter? Because, you know, at that point when you have a daughter, you have murderous intent in your eyes toward any boy. So, but again, it's like, we're not empowering these young women. We're not empowering these women out here to sit there and show that you are more than just your curves and whatnot, and that we should respect you as such. That's how it should be. But again, with stories like that, that just makes me wonder, how far have we really come along if a swimsuit doesn't fit right? Kind of reminds me of Serena Williams. You know, she can't wear this off because it shows too much. But fuck you, she's dominated tennis for like the last 2 decades. She can wear whatever the fuck she wants. I'm not gonna complain. But then again, it's just that minimalization, body shaming that just seems to still be apparent, and that's what I have a fucked up problem with. Speaking of fucked up things that have a problem that usually you should have a problem with, some customer service should never be allowed, and I feel so bad for this next story, just because all she wanted was a number 8.
I am deaf.
I don't care.
You discriminate. Do you know the lawsuit could be against you? You know that?
No, I don't care.
You don't care? Well, I guess you're ready for...
Go.
No. I'm paying you something, so I want number 8, please.
I say, can I help you?
am
say,
deaf!
No!
I can't hear you!
Shut up! I say no! No!
No, I am deaf. You're discriminating me. I'm
Discriminate?
deaf. I can't
say,
hear
can
you
I
on the
help you? I
speaker.
say, can I help you? You!
I
Nothing.
can't
You
hear you.
Go.
I am deaf.
The next customer.
If you want to have a lawsuit, go ahead. You better give me your order right now. You can watch all in the media. What? Number 8, please. Number 8, please.
What, man?
Number 8 combo, please. I'm not leaving until you give me your order. That's it. Oh, wait.
So yeah, pretty much we've all had terrible. We've all had our customer service nightmares. We really have. Whether it's fast food or anything else. And in this case, I feel so very bad for that woman just because all she wanted was a number 8 combo. And the thing about it is, which still is amazing to me, was the lack of just, well, the drive-thru person was like, well, you didn't I couldn't hear you. And she's sitting there the whole time saying, I am deaf. I am deaf. So I couldn't hear you. I mean, it's like, you didn't speak, you didn't give your order to the speaker. I'm deaf. That should have been like, ooh, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Let me help you. It should have been from there. What it should have been. But again, it's just like stuff like that where I just say it's one of those things to where you really just how can I put this in so many ways? It is just being an asshole. Really is. I mean, you sit there and see the woman. It's like she's not playing with you. I mean, she wouldn't sit there for 2 hours, which amazed me so that she literally sat there for 2 hours and waited to get her order. I'm like, I mean, I hit Jack in the Box area up now and then, but I didn't think there was 2 hours waiting that good. But I see the point she was trying to make. So I get that to a certain extent, and yes, the guy should have been fired because let's be honest, if you can't be compassionate toward those who are different than you, then yeah, you don't need to be in a position to where you'll be talking to them on a constant basis. So again, it's one of those things to where it amazes me so the level of just brevity that some people just simply go and just simply just can't be treat others the way they want to be treated. So I don't feel bad the old boy got fired, but thank goodness for social media because chances are it's probably never been seen. Speaking of things that have never been seen, I still can't believe this bullshit. But then again, what do you expect? I just will play the tape.
Courtroom, a former high school cheerleader in Ohio breaking down as the jury found her not guilty of murdering her newborn. Paula Ferris is here with the details. Good morning, Paula.
Good morning to you, Amy. Prosecutors say that she killed and buried her unwanted baby in her backyard just a few days after her senior prom because she wanted to maintain her perfect life. But on Thursday, a jury acquitted her of murder.
We, the jury, in the above captioned case, find the defendant, Brooke Schuyler Richardson, not guilty of the offense of aggravated murder, not guilty of the offense of involuntary manslaughter, not guilty of child endangerment.
Former high school cheerleader Brooke Schuyler Richardson is seen here sobbing and shaking after being found not guilty of the most serious charges that she faced. Her mother, sitting behind her, told her she loved her.
I love you so much.
The 20-year-old's accused of killing her newborn baby girl and burying her in her parents' backyard while she was in high school. But Richardson claiming the child was stillborn.
There were people on that jury who believed that notwithstanding that fact, that we didn't have the evidence to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt because we could not present medical cause of death.
The prosecution claims Richardson, seen here at her senior prom in 2017, just 2 days before giving birth, did not want to be a teen mom. You can see in this photo her baby bump on display on her prom night, just 2 days before she went into labor at home in the middle of the night without telling anyone. Hours after the birth, the high schooler texting her mother saying, "I'm literally speechless with how happy I am. My belly is back." This video played in court shows the police interview where Richardson described the moments after the baby was born.
Did you ever hear a cry or a whimper? Were her eyes open or closed? They were closed.
Meantime, Richardson was found guilty of a lesser charge and faces sentencing up to a year in prison. As for that lesser charge, there's a good chance that she'll get probation only because she is a first-time offender. Now, she told no one about the pregnancy, not her parents, not her boyfriend. Her family said they couldn't tell because her weight regularly fluctuated. You guys, she had an eating disorder. She also claimed she didn't even know she was pregnant until she went to the doctor, and that was roughly 11 days before she gave birth.
All right, well, it's a tragic story.
I'm sorry, what the fuck? Literally, what the fuck? You're telling me that this girl got pregnant, had the baby at home, she says the baby was stillborn, buries the baby in the backyard of her parents' house, and this bitch got acquitted of murder? How? You know what? I would love to meet this jury. I would love to meet this jury and seriously ask them, what will it take? I mean, she admitted that she didn't want to mess up her perfect life. If this is not the literal definition of white privilege, I don't know what the fuck is. But here's the thing, and I know a lot of people out there that are watching this are going, "Oh, that sounds like Casey Anthony." Yes, yes, wholeheartedly so. And you know, we all have our opinions about Casey Anthony. I still say she got away with murder. Let's just be honest. She beat the system because it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And if you can make the jury believe you. And this screams Casey Anthony to me. I was like, Casey Anthony got away with it, and her ass got shipped. She got put somewhere in the U.S. where nobody can find her. And this young woman, I'm just, it's how in the world. And like I said, I really want to meet this jury. I mean, I have some questions I want to ask this jury. Like, you do realize she basically killed her baby. There's no way around this. It's like, it's funny when you just see the whole thing. Well, you actually hear the comment outside. Well, was there a whimper? Was there crying? Her eyes open? You realize you're asking the killer. I'm like, no. You're asking the person who was the only person there that could validate it. At the same time, it's just, and I love the fact of just at the end of the report. Oh, it's so tragic. It's so tragic. No, it's not. It's fucked up. Because what are we saying? We're saying that all you so-called teen moms who don't want to be teen moms, you know, hey, follow this blueprint. Have a baby. Make sure nobody knows about it. Bury it in the backyard. Be extremely remorseful. And the jury will eat that up. If I was the prosecutor, I would be like, what the fuck, people? Really? That got your sympathy? I would just, there's literally and figuratively no words beyond that. That is to me murder one. I mean, it's like, you didn't want this baby, okay? Fine. There are other avenues you could have went. Like, well, she didn't know about it until about 11 days when she gave birth. Well, her weight was fluctuating because she had an eating disorder. You know, that tells me that a lot was put out into the air to muddy the water. Personally, I think that bitch knew she was pregnant for a very long time. I personally think that she knew that she didn't want the child. I personally believe that at that moment of her giving birth, she made a decision. And again, that decision may have not been the smart one, but hey, they can't get her for murder now. I think the only charge they can get her for right now is abuse of a corpse. And like the news said, she's a first-time offender, so I doubt she'll be doing a year in jail. She might get probation. And then she goes off into obscurity. But at the same time, what I find so funny is you pro-life and all lives matter people, why the fuck are you not being loud right now? I mean, you guys take every chance when Planned Parenthood comes up and abortion comes up that you put on your hats and flags and you come out and protest. But at the same time, I didn't see you when Casey Anthony was murdering her child and she got away with it. And now this woman has murdered her baby and got away with it. Silence. Because the simple fact of the matter is, it's bullshit. You guys pick where you want to pick. But at the same time with this story, it's also bullshit. Because why the fuck? How did she beat the jury? Except unless the jury was a certain shade. That's just my theory. Nobody's seen the jury yet. I doubt we will. But there's just no way you can explain how the fuck she got off with nothing more than a slap on the wrist without that. But moving right along, before we get to the as far as the election, it's not the election. Wow, I'm thinking you're down the road. Before we get down to the debate, there was also one story I want to show. Is just that this is the reason why we need to start holding the pill makers like Purdue liable. because this opioid epidemic, which I like to call, white folks finally admitting they have black problems and they need help. Not like the cocaine epidemic where black people are being targeted and white people are sitting there saying, it's just easy, just say no. Well, anyway, Purdue Pharma is pretty much funneling their money. And by funneling, I mean this.
Willing to pay to settle thousands of lawsuits stemming from the opioid crisis. The proposed settlement comes amid speculation that the family's company, Purdue Pharma, is about to go bankrupt. Mola Lenghi has late developments.
The details of Purdue Pharma's proposed settlement are the clearest sign its owners are ready to pay up to settle the more than 2,000 lawsuits accusing the drug maker of fueling the opioid crisis. CBS News has learned that members of the Sackler family who own Purdue are willing to give up ownership of the company and pay an additional $3 billion to $4.5 billion from their personal wealth. Over 2 decades, while the sale of the painkiller OxyContin generated billions of dollars in profits for the drug maker, the nation's opioid addiction was reaching a crisis. According to the CDC, overdose deaths linked to prescription opioids have killed more than 218,000 Americans since the late 1990s. Tony LaGreca's son Matthew died in 2014 after a long struggle with prescription opioids. He says his addiction started with a single bottle of Purdue Pharma's OxyContin to treat a football injury.
It seems that the Sackler family, that Purdue Pharma now may be willing to pay up.
Well, they're offering a certain amount of money, and first of all, the amount of money is way too small. There's still millions of people who are now still fighting addiction, and that addiction has come from the initial prescription from opioids.
Well, meanwhile, the threat of bankruptcy looms. A source close to the negotiations says there is no specific timing for a potential filing, but CBS News has learned that Purdue has given plaintiffs a deadline of tomorrow to accept the terms of the deal, Nora, or the pharmaceutical giant will file for bankruptcy.
Okay, so what does that mean? So like I said, with this so-called opioid crisis, which basically, like I said, white people finally admit they have black problems, they want help. So, of course, with OxyContin is a dangerous addictive narcotic, which in the same sense has been overprescribed by doctors for everyone else to use. So with that being said, it's not surprising that now finally that they're wanting to shine a light on certain things. It's just that in this case, that deaths being linked to that overprescription is finally going back to the drug makers. So Purdue Pharma, which actually produces OxyContin, is about to go bankrupt. Except the owner, the Sackler family, who still has billions, is only doing this to avoid multiple lawsuits. Which I think it's crazy because you guys, well, not saying you guys, I'm saying that it's amazing how the government allows OxyContin, but yet marijuana is still illegal in most states. And last time I checked, marijuana hasn't killed anybody. OxyContin's got quite the body count. But these drug makers that actually make these dangerous narcotics are still allowed to produce them, still allowed to sell them, still allowed to operate. But in the same sense, how much more bodies is it going to take before we realize we need to start looking into alternative medicines? And at the same time, when are we going to hold these drug makers responsible? Because let's be honest, doctors are more like not to knock the physician profession for all you doctors out there. I appreciate you all, but let's be honest, some of y'all are kind of pushed to push certain medications out because you're being sponsored. Tell me if I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll take it all back. But I just find it obvious. I just find it very difficult that, like for me, when I had dentist work done about 2 years ago. And the dentist was like, well, for the pain, we're going to give you some Oxy. No, I'm good. I'll ride the pain out. And I did. I said for 4 to 5 days. It wasn't bad after day 2 because, it's just nerves and stuff back there. But I didn't want that. And the reason I didn't want it because I've seen the effects. I've seen where people can get addicted. It's a state of mind. That Oxy does that. I've seen Oxy that puts people in a state of mind. It's like a rush. It's a high. So I see where the addiction comes into place, and I see where it can be hooked. And let's just be honest, the Sackler family saw that too, and they made billions off of it. And now they're about to get away with it, and that's fucked up. But moving right along, guys. I know I didn't mention. I know it's kind of late to the end of this that I wanted to mention this. So let's just talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about the debate. And honestly, the debate. Well, long story short, because I don't want to go too much into it. I kind of did on my Facebook post. So if you look at William Buchanan on Facebook, you'll be able to see my post that I did about the debate. And honestly, long story short, it just was a repeat, really, of the last debate. Nothing's really changed as far as the people that were talking, people that were standing out, and the people that just wanted to make moments. But I have to give this particular moment some credit.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
You said, quote, Americans who own AR-15s and AK-47s will have to sell them to the government, all of them. The critics call this confiscation. Are you proposing taking away their guns, and how would this work?
I am, if it's a weapon that was designed to kill people on a battlefield. If the high impact, high velocity round, when it hits your body, shreds everything inside of your body, because it was designed to do that, so that you would bleed to death on a battlefield and not be able to get up and kill one of our soldiers. When we see that being used against children, and in Odessa, I met the mother of a 15-year-old girl who was shot by an AR-15, and that mother watched her bleed to death over the course of an hour because so many other people were shot by that AR-15 in Odessa and Midland. There weren't enough ambulances to get to them in time. Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
Congressman, thank you.
And I want to say this. I'm listening to the people of this country. The day after I proposed doing that, I went to a gun show in Conway, Arkansas, to meet with those who are selling AR-15s and AK-47s and those who are buying those weapons. And you might be surprised, there was some common ground there. Folks who said, I would willingly give that up, cut it to pieces. I don't need this weapon to hunt, to defend myself. It is a weapon of war. So let's do the right thing, but let's bring everyone in America into the conversation. Republicans, Democrats, gun owners, and non-gun owners alike.
Can I make a point? Congressman, thank you.
Now, of course, with it being Beto O'Rourke, the news bit that's been heard since that debate was, hell yes, we are going to take AR-15s and AK-47s. He did actually follow up, which I thought was a very good point, to bring everybody in the conversation and try to find some middle ground. Now, what I loved about the entire bit was, like I said, I'm actually, and like I said before, I've said many times, I am a gun owner. I'm all for more regulation, more restriction, more training, more checkpoints like a mental health evaluation, background checks at gun trade and knife shows. I'm all for that. I'm never going to be against that. But it seems that there were some people who did not like Beto O'Rourke's response, which Briscoe Cain, who is a Texas Republican lawmaker, which his response was, my AR is ready for you, Robert Francis. And then it's amazing where Beto pretty much says, that's a death threat, sir. Clearly you shouldn't own an AR-15 and neither should anyone else. Now, the term that's always being shown is ammosexual. Now, I say ammosexual because that's like the best way to nicely say they're, I don't want to call them gun nuts, but they pretty much are. Because they always feel like their guns are being taken away from them. And let's be honest, there are some things you shouldn't own as a civilian. Like tanks. Like, I'm going to be honest, in certain areas of the U.S., you can own a tank as long as it has been demilitarized, which means that it cannot fire tank shells, it cannot have machine guns mounted, things of that nature. You're pretty much driving an overpowered dually tank, diesel engine tank with tracks. But it is legal to own them. It is legal to own certain types of cannons as long as they cannot fire. But do require an FFL license and things of that nature. It is amazing by far how much you can actually do and keep in the U.S. I mean, we do have such a sudden gun fascination that you can't help but be slightly concerned. And with that being said, when a president does say something that bold, it's like, yes, we are coming to take away the weapons that are used in mass murders. I mean, and I've had discussions, multiple discussions with different people from different sides of it, but I think the common ground out of it all is that something needs to change. I've always sat there and said, and I use other countries as examples. I said we could be like Japan. Japan does not allow shotguns. You can have pistols, you can have pistols and everything else. They outlaw shotguns. But in order to have guns in Japan, you have to certify every year, take a class and pass it. You're shooting and mechanics, and then you have to go to a mental health evaluation by a psychiatrist in a hospital. And you have to do that every year. And a lot of people sit there saying, well, I don't want that. And it's like, okay, well, it's like, what about grandfathering? And I had an answer for that too. Well, if you don't want to, it's like, you don't want to give up your guns, but you still want to keep them, you want to be grandfathered in, fine, you're registered. And I cannot tell you how many people looked at that and sat there and said, no, I'm not going to register. Well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Either you give up the gun and sell it back to the government, or you keep it and you're registered, so we know who has what for safety reasons. And it's amazing to me where guys will sit there and go, well, I don't want the government to know what I got. Motherfucker, I want to know what you got. For example, it's just like that one guy who went to Walmart armed, was getting an impression of how people felt safe around him. And I've said it once and I'll say it again. I will never feel safe around somebody who literally has an AR-15 strapped to their back, multiple rounds of ammo, body armor, and decides to turn around and say, hey, I'm going to come to your store and ask you, do you feel safe with me walking around? Hell no, I don't. But again, it's that ongoing discussion that I think is only going to be solved once we actually do some really get some proper regulation in, honestly. But that wasn't the only thing. I mean, there were other crazy spots during the debate, which I won't go into just because, like I said, I don't want to bore you guys. But I will say, if you do want to know what I thought of it, just go to my Facebook post at William Buchanan on Facebook, and my post there about the debate will go into detail about that. The only other thing I did want to show from the debate was the fact that this ad got played on actual television. This ad right here.
This is the face of socialism and ignorance. Does Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez know the horror of socialism? My father was minutes from death in Cambodia before a forced marriage saved his life. That's socialism. Forced obedience, starvation. Mine is a face of freedom. My skin is not white. I'm not outrageous, racist, nor socialist. I'm a Republican.
What the fuck? Jesus Christ, that was dark. But again, that was played multiple times during the presidential debate. And again, this was made by New Face GOP, which is a new, if you haven't noticed by now, it's a newly created Republican super PAC. That's pretty much, in so many ways, that's a love letter to white supremacy. It really is. Let me explain something. Socialism is not bad. Socialism, from what is being done, what's being, because that's Bernie Sanders' whole thing. It's like, well, he's going to be a socialist. I'm like, we already have socialist programs in place. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, unemployment, those are all socialist programs. And, for those that benefit from those programs, are not arguing. So it's, again, this, not only is it crazy that well, for the better part of that story is that they're basically going after AOC for what other reason except to sit there and say that, well, she's pushing the new Green Deal, which does have a lot of things that are cutting back on what the lobbyists are paying these Republicans for. So it's amazing to me where the propaganda machine kicks up again right before election time, where you don't want to stand and say, well, they're being socialist and socialist is bad. Well, socialist is bad, and let's take away all the things that are socialist programs and see how you fare then. But it was amazing to me where the whole commercial focused around, my skin is not white, I'm not a racist, I'm a Republican. Again, I just feel like, so you're trying to drive a different narrative, or are you trying to sit there and say that all Republicans are white? Because I've met some black Republicans, and I'm still scratching my head over that one. Because I've met Republicans that are women, I've met Republicans that are Latino, black, and all the things of the rainbow. I scratch my head because you're literally siding with the party that is everything against you. Like, Republicans pretty much downplay, or Republicans pretty much vote against every woman issue. I have yet to see one Republican marker that has actually been for women. I've yet to see one Republican legislator that's been for people of color. I've yet to see one Republican legislature that actually helps immigrants. Everything so far the Republicans have done, as far as I know and looked into, has always been what they're against. So when I see people of different colors, ethnicities, and whatnot, who are Republicans, I have to ask, how could you be affiliated with a party that's against you? But then again, shouldn't be surprised. But it's just creepy how the propaganda machines have already kicked up, and they're trying to make socialists a bad thing. And I've always told people, I said, look into ways that, we're already heading to that way, because most modern countries do have more socialist programs, and they work. So I always tell people, do your research. You'll always be able to see the different side of things, and never accept a video where there's a burning skull in the background, because that's just fucking creepy. So as we get to the end, I know I haven't mentioned President Cheeto, which surprisingly enough, this is 1 week where he really didn't mention much. It's almost like this Twitter breakdown, or did the guys at Twitter finally block his ass? I don't know what happened. But he did actually decide to start a whole nother war. He decided to start a war not in the Middle East, but on e-cigs.
Begin with a promise by the president to crack down on underage vaping. There's been a surge in e-cigarette use by teens and a risk in illnesses linked to it. So today, the president said that the FDA is developing guidelines to ban those flavored e-cigarettes. 80% of teens who vape say they picked the product because it comes in flavors that they like. Weijia Zhang reports it's personal for Mr. Trump.
A lot of people think vaping is wonderful, it's great. It's really not wonderful.
President Trump warned parents about a dramatic spike in vaping among young people. New data suggests more than 25% of high school students use e-cigarettes. In 2018, 68% reported using flavors like bubblegum and cotton candy, which is why Secretary of Health and Human Services Alex Azar said they must be banned.
An entire generation of children risk becoming addicted to nicotine because of the attractiveness, appealability, and availability of these vaping products.
A generation that includes first son, Barron Trump.
And that's how the First Lady got involved. She's got a son together that is a beautiful young man, and she feels very, very strongly about it.
Azar said First Lady Melania Trump is very involved in the process of removing all flavored nicotine from the market, except the tobacco flavor, aimed at smokers trying to quit traditional cigarettes. Ex-smoker Mike Stephanie bought blueberry lemonade.
I don't want to smoke the flavorless stuff, so I don't think that they should get rid of it just because they think it's for kids.
The CEO of Juul, the biggest e-cigarette company in the U.S., says they target consumers like Stephanie, not young people.
I'm sorry that their kids are using the product. We never intended for our product to be used by them.
Secretary Azar says it will take the FDA several weeks to work out details for a ban on e-cigarette flavors. And if it goes into effect, companies that make flavored products can apply for an exemption to sell them again. But Nora, they would have to prove a net benefit to public health.
Let's see how this all.
Okay, let's stop right there for a second. Am I the only one that wants to shake my head and go, vaping is bad? So, okay, hear me out on this. So, there's been 6 related vaping deaths. Immediately, President Cheeto and his administration want to move toward banning e-cigs. Cigarettes have been killing people since the beginning of the Western civilization. I don't see a movement to ban them. AR-15s have been killing people in mass murders going on almost now 10 years of data. I don't see a ban on AR-15s. I mean, we did have a ban on assault-style weapons since the Clinton administration, but that was repealed during Bush 2.0. But I don't see a ban on that. So here's my thing that I took from this was just that, wait a second. I just love the fact that it said, we're trying to make things safer for kids. Cigarettes, just like alcohol, are vices. This is true. But there's nothing safe about it. I mean, if you have the Surgeon General's warning on the side, may cause lung cancer, emphysema, problems during pregnancy, stroke, heart attack, possibly death. Maybe not in that order, but let's be honest, the Surgeon General's warning is on every pack of cigarettes. You've been warned. If you smoke this will happen to you. It says it on Juul packs, because vaping in its infancy, when you had the blue cigarettes, it's like when you blow it out, it's vapor. It's not smoke. So you can smoke it anywhere. That was the whole advertising point, was you can smoke them anywhere because you're not breathing out nicotine, you're just breathing out air. You're just basically breathing out, unfiltered air is what you're breathing out. So the whole idea, honestly, behind it all amazes me so that now it's just like, now all of a sudden we have to crack down on e-cigs. Why not crack down on cigarettes while you're at it? Cigarettes are still being sold. And at the same time, they're still killing people. They're still calling emphysema. They're still calling lung cancer. And, you get that lady in the hole in the neck. You get that lady with the hole in the neck kind of thing going. But again, I just don't get it. It's like, why in the world do you crack down on one thing, but you forget about the other? So again, I'm not really surprised, but then again, I'm just really amazed at Trump, just because of the fact of the matter, it's the fact that he's trying to make things safe, and the fact that he's trying to say that the first hostage, or I like to call the first hostage, Bainbridge, First Lady, well, she feels very strongly about this entire situation. Let me ask you one question. Have you ever honestly seen Melania Trump actually say anything without Donald Trump being there first? I'm just saying from a hostage standpoint, that's how it looks. That's just me. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and go straight into our good news stories. Because like we usually do on here, How the Frack We Got Here, we usually talk about stories, and it's always, sometimes doom, sometimes gloom, sometimes just bad news in general. But, it's the weekend. You want to leave out on a good note. Good positive vibes is what we try to do, at the end of it all, from informing you. And I like to start with this story. I did kind of post a little bit in my Facebook earlier this week, but I do like the fact, with what University of Tennessee has done, really not my go-to college sports team. I'm always going to be University of Alabama, but I just love the simple fact of the matter of what they did. If you don't know what they did, then here it is.
Great Florida boy was bullied for wearing a handmade Tennessee Volunteer shirt. Many rallied around him, and now in addition to selling shirts based on his design, the university has offered him a 4-year scholarship for the class of 2032, assuming he meets all admission requirements. Amy, it's nice to see that the internet can do some good.
Yes, I think that shirt's pretty cool. I'm curious where in Florida he was from, though, because, if someone in Tennessee was wearing a Florida shirt, that probably the same thing would happen.
I suppose, but, who knows why people
I am not endorsing bullying. I'm just saying that, the Florida-Tennessee rivalry is one of the most vicious that exists in all of sports.
Well, look, we've had a theme this week about how far you should take your sports team allegiances, right. But let's all agree that this is a good thing.
Be nice to children.
Be nice to children, and we're.
I love how I said that and said, well, the Florida-Tennessee rivalry is one of the most vicious rivalries out there. Clearly, you've never seen Ohio State and Michigan. So pretty much, sorry, some people that just try to be sportscasters should just not be sportscasters. But anyway, the story I want to show was that, of course, a kid had a homemade University of Tennessee T-shirt that he was bullied in class for, and it went viral. So UT decided to basically take his shirt and actually make it a shirt that can be worn. And of course, proceeds go to anti-bullying campaigns. And I thought that was cool. They actually sent the kid a lot of merch. So that way he actually had actual UT stuff. So I love the fact that they kind of took one step and said, hey man, we love your shirt. We're going to make that shirt available and, take the proceeds and, donate to online bullying. We're going to give you a whole crap load of stuff. They sent the kid like almost 2 truckloads of UT gear. And at the same time, I do love the fact they actually one step forward. It's like, hey, if you want to come to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, you got a 4-year ride as long as you do everything you're supposed to do. And that from a parent standpoint is like, wait a minute. All my kid's got to do is keep his grades up. He applies, and as long as he makes the grades, he's cool. You're going to University of Tennessee. Why? You got a 4-year ride. So, you ready to start practicing Go Vols. Well, I wouldn't do that to my child, but I would sit there and point out like, hey, you got a 4-year ride to college, son. I mean, it's up to you. I could deal with the orange. I could. 4-year ride to probably one of the better educated schools in Tennessee. I will admit that. I will admit, sports teams aside, University of Tennessee in Knoxville is a very oh wow, if I could find words, that'd be great. It's a very collegiate school, and like they said, plenty of areas in forensics and things of that nature you can go into, journalism, things, and really just multiple areas. But again, not pounding University of Tennessee. I'm really proud of them as far as what they did for this kid, and really praising him and uplifting him and giving him something to shoot for. I'm all for that. But then again, like I said, with me, Roll Tide. Aside from that story, which I thought was cool, this story has been going around quite a lot, and I've always sat there and said, children of the wisest people, and you can't help, above all else, see this and not smile.
It's the adorable video of toddler besties that's melting hearts across planet Earth.
Their little legs.
I know. My night is complete.
The video captures 2-year-olds Maxwell and Finnegan running towards each other, arms wide open, in their New York City neighborhood. They meet in a great big hug.
You are just adorable.
Maxwell's dad posted the moment on Facebook. This is just so beautiful. If we could all be like this. The hug is clearly striking a chord. It has millions of views. The boys met 1 year ago and have become inseparable. They hold hands whenever they're together and even have their own language that no one else understands. The video ends as the boys run off together towards their next adventure.
Yeah, you can't help but smile at that, I'm not gonna lie. And I've always said it best, kids will play with kids and honestly do not care about anything else. And I've said it best and I'll say it again, kids have the best idea when it comes to a lot of things that us adults really struggle with. And 2 kids that just want to play around and apparently run to each other and hug each other, I saw nothing wrong with that. But again, it's why I sit there and said it's amazing with all this displacement that we have among us adults that kids have actually figured it out, and somewhere along the lines we got separated. But again, I just love the fact just watching kids, being able to play and not sit there and vape. But moving right along, guys, this other story I have here is of Jermaine Bell. Jermaine Bell, who actually was saving up money that he had a trip to send his family to Florida. He actually turned around and bought food for evacuees of Hurricane Dorian. And I thought to myself, this exceptional young man was great because he took something that he was looking forward to and decided to give to those who were displaced by the hurricane. Well, apparently Mickey found out about it, and Mickey and Disney decided to go ahead and give this man the trip for him and his family. And again, and I love the fact that where he said at the end, be strong, and if you do good things, you will be rewarded. Again, listen to the children. The children are the wisest people out there. But I just love the simple fact of the matter is, I do believe in the fact that whatever you put out in the universe, you do get back to you. And of course, if you try to help, help where you can, and things of that nature, and then you just get rewarded that way. Honestly, that's just my opinion of it all. But aside from that, like I said, glad he's able to go to Mickey, to Disney World. And hopefully his family and him have a good time. And honestly, it's like I said, it feels good. It just fills you up with hope for the next generation. Like, I keep saying to myself, this is gonna be a generation of mumble rappers and hot Cheetos. But you know what? There are some out there that just give me hope, and this is one of those moments that actually gives me hope. But finally, the last story I have is, like I said, I always find things about teachers where this teacher is going viral because the teacher son, like I said, the son scored 100% on his reading test, and the teacher basically made him a sign to let the young man know that his teacher is proud of him for passing a test. And that's the thing I've always said about teachers, and a lot of people don't understand. When it comes to educators honestly have the greatest effect on kids because they can encourage them to be the best, and they should. And like I said, it's hard, damn near difficult to find that quality of teacher anymore. And I was lucky enough to have more than 2 handful worth of teachers in my life that have influenced me in that way, to help me become the man I've become. And I'm always thankful for that. And that's why I always say on the side of educators, they honestly should be paid. They really should be paid like college professors, really. And the same sense that they should be given all the tools they need and not be underpaid and overworked and overstaffed and things of that nature. But when you see stuff like this, these are teachers that are also trying to make differences in kids' lives, and trust me, that shit adds up. So that's gonna be it for the podcast, guys. Thanks for all watching today, and like I said, if you're watching this on playback, thank you for watching as well. Some shameless promotion before I get out of here. I'm not the only cat that does have a podcast within our group called Table of Bosses. I'll start with Vaughn first, BigBZA on YouTube, A.Wespoon on Facebook. Has several podcasts of his own. He actually has the I Get That Reference VST, which is a mini podcast of various news. That news can be video games, that news can be music, that news can be movie trailers, but highly interactive show, just like mine. He also has Rhythmness, which was just yesterday, where you reminisce over the rhythm, where he goes over musical reviews, both past and present, to a 4-tier rating system. If you want to know what that is, you have to watch Rhythmness to find out. He also has Random as Fuck, which I believe is going to be, well, I don't know if it's today or not. He's kind of adjusting things. But what is Random as Fuck? Random as Fuck is the pool of ratchetness we sometimes dip our toes into to basically take a break from life and have a chuckle. Some videos make you think, some videos make you cry. Some videos, like my personal favorite, where you have a woman sitting at a Burger King drive-thru, the roof is on fire, the employees are outside, and she's at the drive-thru window waiting for her change while the roof is on fire. I wish I could make that up. By far one of my favorite videos to this day. But again, the interactive show as well. All these shows do have a calendar, so if you actually look up A.Wetherspoon on Facebook, you'll be able to find his calendar to show when and where these podcasts will be viewing. My other friend of mine, Trace Brown, on Facebook, DJ Keeney Wang on YouTube, has a couple podcasts of his own. He actually has The Bump Down, which was actually just 2 days ago. What is The Bump Down? The Bump Down is a musical podcast in which is music, culture, knowledge, and numbers, in which he goes over the music industry and just says what's high on the charts, the underground up-and-coming artists, especially like Heat J, Who's Hungry, Let's Eat, which will be available soon. It also, if you do have music that you want to have played on The Bump Down or on Rhythmness, please reach out to Vaughn, A.Wetherspoon on Facebook, or Trace Brown and DJ King Wayne on Facebook, and they'll get in touch with you about how you can submit your music there. And I'll be honest, we will try to encourage you, but we will be bluntly honest. So if you don't come, you better come with the fire. Aside from The Bump Down for Trace has a Smoke of Truth, I like to call it the Check Your Ego at the Door, Not for the Faint of Heart podcast, in which he's going to areas that a lot of people, if they're not ready to go, will go. But if you're ready to have that honest and blunt conversation, then I all the way encourage that, because Trace is a very unorthodox but intelligent brother, and definitely would recommend those to actually watch Smoke of Truth and be able to be ready to have that conversation. My other friend of mine, who will probably be on a little bit later on Facebook Live, Thomas Reed, aka we call him Mountain Puncher, will come up with To Be Determined. To Be Determined podcast is a fitness podcast, because if you've seen Thomas on Facebook or if you've seen him in the gym, the man lives in the gym. At this point, he might as well be paying rent. But again, he is a very guy about fitness. He loves to work out, loves to tell people, show people what he's doing and things that are on his mind, workouts, nutrition, things of that nature. very informative podcast to be determined, which is every Saturday at 3 p.m. on Facebook Live. Of course, with my show, on How the Frack We Got Here is usually every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon. And of course, later on, which will probably be a little bit more later today, is the Off Limits podcast, in which the podcast we talk about that goes there. Now, my podcast, I go by the simple fact of the matter is, we've always been told that you can't talk about sex, politics, religion, anything of that nature with people because you don't want to make it an awkward conversation. I believe that the lack of those conversations that we should have had when we were kids moving up into adults actually caused the loss of civil conversation, because nowadays everybody's either arguing, talking over each other, trying to force their point down each other's throats. Everybody's talking, but nobody's willing to listen and be able to find that middle ground, or at least be able to agree to disagree. That's where my podcast comes in. We do talk about the crazy stuff, we do talk about the out there stuff, and sometimes we do talk about the serious stuff. But we do go to those areas because I truly believe the only way we can make something of a civil conversation is to be ready to have those conversations that nobody else has, and that's what makes Off Limits special. So, usually for Off Limits, it's usually every Saturday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's going to be a little bit later tonight. We're probably going to be doing one at 10 p.m., so if you're still up and you're not pre-clubbing, you're more than welcome to join it. It should be an interesting show from there as well. Aside from that, all of us do have YouTube pages, so if you look up How the Frack We Got Here, Off Limits Podcast, DJ King Eddie Wayne, Big BZA Podcast, all those are active YouTube pages where you can like, share, and subscribe and everything we've done so far. My other buddy who actually has a gaming podcast, Wingnut Gaming, has just started Borderlands 3. So what is Wingnut Gaming? My buddy Wingnut is a gamer. Definitely loves his first-person shooters. He loves Call of Duty. He loves Apex Legends. He loves Fortnite. His choice, not mine. And he also has just started Borderlands 3, which just recently came out. But he definitely is a very sociable cat. Loves to joke around. Loves to be able to talk to people while he's playing. So if you ever have a chance, go to Wingnut Gaming on Facebook, like, share, subscribe, and go from there. So, with that being said, the last thing I'll say about How the Frack We Got Here is all about staying informed. Like I said, the way to stay informed is to honestly not accept anything at face value, to literally go out and find the research, look beyond the deeper meaning, and be able to come back and show somebody else what you have in order to empower and encourage them to do the same. Because an informed community can make a lot better decisions than an uninformed one, because an uninformed one pretty much got us Trump, and that's how the frack we got here. So thank you guys for all watching. If you're watching this on the playback, please go ahead and comment as if I'm here. I know you're Trump supporter as well. Aside from that, guys, hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'm out.